Hey, this is Zach from Smash Mouth, and you are listening to the Midwest Mixtape Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Midwest Mixtape Podcast, live from sort of the barn. You got the Chad here, the Mox here, and Chuck online. And we're joined online with a couple special guests. We have Zach and Paul from Smash Mouth. Fellas, how are we today?
What's going on? How you doing? Good to be here.
Doing really well. We're excited you're coming into town sooner than later at the Pig and Whiskey Festival, May 9th in St. Louis, Missouri, a part of their whole weekend festival that they have. And you're playing with one of my favorite bands, Blind Melon. So, hey, Smash Mouth
Cool.
and Blind Melon, that's really great. So
Right
happy to have you back in town. And again, that's May 9th. So looking forward to that.
I didn't even know Blind Melon was in the bill. That's awesome. Stoked.
That's awesome.
Because usually, like, don't you have melon with pig? So that goes well, right? It's like
I was going to say pigs and whiskey are two of my favorite things.
Yeah. You got Smash Mouth, you got melons, you got whiskey, you got pigs.
And it's, we recently talked to Art from Everclear, and they actually just announced their tour this coming summer as well. And you guys have your Mercury Comet tour, 2025. He mentioned that they're seeing, this nostalgia kind of thing is really taking off. They're having a lot of success with the shows, and some of them were selling out. Have you guys had the chance to have some of that as well?
Yeah, we've been going strong.
Yeah.
The tour, we've been doing it for a couple of years since I've been in the band, and like you said, the nostalgia is strong, man. I mean, everywhere we play, many thousands of people show up and they know the words, and a lot of the stuff that we do is with those bands that the Sugar Ray and Lit and Bare Naked Ladies and Gin Blossoms, those Spin Doctors. So it's like those bands are, like Paul has said famously, the new classic rock.
Yeah,
people know it.
It's a lot of fun and it's very exciting.
And
yeah, for the songs.
I'm in my 40s, so that was sort of my, teenage era, right? And I know Chuck feels this way too, because we've had many a nights, with beers in hand, where we talk about the greatest generations of music, or maybe decades of music. And I think finally the 90s are starting to get their due, or maybe they always have been, or maybe just a little bit more aware of it. But I think it's one of the best decades in music ever.
I agree. It was started off by Nirvana, and everything it was great from there on. The 90s was a great decade for music, yeah.
I feel like Jane's Addiction and REM were like the two that popped it off, and then Nirvana just like took the ball and ran with it, you know?
Replacements, Husker Du, all those bands, yeah.
Then I feel like all the kind of quote-unquote cool bands kind of got their due, the Pearl Jams and the Soundgardens, all the Seattle bands, and now that sort of like people recognize those guys as the new classic rock, now the other bands who are sort of like the mainstream radio bands that were huge bands like Smash Mouth and Spin Doctors and these guys were kind of getting our due finally as well. And so it's nice to have people who, like you said, are in your 40s, and that's the music of your childhood or your college years, whatever, whether it be Shrek or whether it be, Astro Lounge or whatever. That music is still, the songs hold up after all these years. So people still show up to all the shows. It's great.
Yeah.
It was the most versatile decade, it seems, in music, with rap and grunge and the hair bands just leaving, but metal and just everything was in the 90s. It all came together. There was so much diversity.
Yeah,
Spice Girls, boy bands.
Yeah,
there was also a parallel with the 60s as well. You had Motown and the Beatles, and similarly in the 90s, it was a very song-oriented decade as well. A lot of excitement and like great live concerts, and 90s was a great decade, maybe the last great decade.
Yeah, it hadn't been too great here lately, but we're trekking forward. We're moving on, right?
Yeah, we're here.
There's still good bands out there.
Yeah, always will be.
Yeah, and with that, are there some modern artists or some newer artists that you guys, you maybe are inspired by, or at the very least like and enjoy?
I mean, for me, there's tons. I still go to concerts. I mean, I love sort of alternative, sort of Americana type stuff like Dawes and Aaron Lee Tashin and I guess some of these bands aren't that new anymore. Bands like, I guess Flaming Lips have been around for 40 years now. But, bands like that, the Shins and, Death Cab and that kind of, those are newer bands for me, but I guess this is the 2000s at this point. I went and saw Clutch and Rival Sons a couple months ago, and Rival Sons own. Yeah, those guys are cool. Those guys are the real deal, man. They came on there like Zeppelin reincarnated. They're badass.
Them too. That's a good example.
Yeah, they're great. And there's just a lot of, I think it's just more of a single. It's kind of back to a singles culture now, just because of the nature of streaming music. So you hear a song, it's like, oh, it's a cool new song, and then it kind of you kind of move on to the next song. You don't listen to albums as much anymore. I don't know.
It's true.
So let's do a new album, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be a busy summer for you guys. You have the new album coming out this summer at some point as well. And, with that comes a lot of work, and Paul, you guys have been doing this for a long time now. Are you able to stay inspired and motivated to continue to do this?
It's just so much fun. It's very fun. The band is so good. The players are so good. It's my hobby, so it's not work. I would do it anyways if it wasn't, so it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, the hard part is just finding the time, because we all have busy lives, and we have the band, but not all of us always live in the same place, and we're on the road a lot. So just physically finding the time to get there and get in the studio and record it, just the logistics of it, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Getting it done. But the songs, we have plenty of material. Paul's written a bunch. Yeah. I've written a bunch. We have other stuff. We have covers. There's a lot of songs. We have too many songs at this point, right?
It's all mapped out, So
yeah, so
the hard part's already done.
Yep, we just got to lay it down. Yeah. We already started.
And I think one of the most interesting things about Smash Mouth is it crosses different generations. I do a lot of interviews where I have 3 daughters, the oldest being 14. She has no idea who I'm talking about, even if there's sometimes big names for people my age, right? Mm-hmm. But with Smash Mouth, you probably have just as young a fan base because of something like Shrek, right? Or your music is in malls and in elevators. It's everywhere. I was at a basketball game this past weekend, and they started playing Smash Mouth, and I told my daughters, like, "Oh, I'm interviewing this band this week." So it's like I feel like it crosses generations. And now with something like TikTok, even a band like Weedus, Teenage Dirtbag, actually kind of got re-kicked into the culture a little bit, because all these little kids, and my daughters included, are going around singing Teenage Dirtbag.
That's incredible to me, because back in the 90s, my day job was making band merch, and in San Diego, and one of my good friends is this band called Zebrahead, who are still around today, 30-something years later. Great bands. And I was in their video for their Playmate of the Year at the Playboy Mansion, but they toured with Weedus right when Weedus came out. And so we ended up doing their band merch. So we did all their shirts that said Teenage Dirtbag and the Iron Maiden font. And for years and years. And they had that one song that it went away for 30 years. And now all of a sudden I see it everywhere. They're back. So it's incredible. These songs have legs.
Yeah.
Man, I seen Zebrahead long time ago with touring with Everclear. And didn't have any idea who that was. They were great.
Yeah, they put on a super fun show.
They were fun, man.
They have like inflatables and breakdancing contests. And yeah. Shout out to Ben, man. I've known Ben for 30 years, so he's a good dude.
With you guys, when I think of Smash Mouth, I think of just happy, fun. I mean, it just seems like it's just so much. And you guys do all the cover songs. What's your favorite cover song? You guys have so many cover songs. It's got to be fun as hell to put on a show.
It is fun to do covers. I like our version of "Never Gonna Give You Up." It's fun to play.
It is. Yeah. It's fun to play because people don't expect it. Because people expect "I'm a Believer." They know, why can't we be friends? There's a couple others that people know, but I think only the people that were paying attention, like when I joined the band a few years ago, have heard that song. So to most people, it's still like a left field cover, and it's very up tempo. And it's become a staple in the set, kind of near the end of the set too. So it packs a punch. It's a super fun one to play. Yeah. People dig it.
And I like the Weeknd one
to get the dance going on.
The new Weeknd one too.
Yeah, that should be good. We'll just start playing that this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to mention that Blinding Lights. That's a great song. And, talk about pop. And sometimes I can tune out on some of what's popular and what gets played a lot on popular radio. But I just think so much of The Weeknd as an artist.
Yeah. He's such a great voice, such a strong voice,
Yeah, there's people that shine through. Like you hear new stuff, and a lot of it's disposable. Obviously, one-hit wonders. You see something on SNL, or you hear it on Spotify. But when true talent comes along, you see, Bruno Mars or Lady Gaga, or people that are just like, you're like, that guy can freaking sing, with or without auto tune. And then you look at the credits of who wrote the song, and they wrote the songs. It's like, sure, there's 9 other songwriters, but they wrote they wrote a lot of the songs. So yeah, I think Weeknd's super talented, man. That song is just
he's Canadian as well.
Canadian, that's right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some of those artists that is kind of intimidating to cover, like Adele. The Weeknd is going to be Adele, Whitney Houston, Elvis. Like people, a lot of those people like, don't touch them in karaoke.
Yeah,
you're not going to look good.
Try to compete, just do it your own way and take a whole nother direction. Take a different route and do it your own way. So you can't really compare. You don't want to do a cover and just try to emulate exactly what the original is. What's the point of that? You got to put your own stamp on it.
Yeah, probably not going to be singing Adele anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Her talent's incredible, right? I think she's one of the greatest artists maybe to ever exist.
Yeah, but all her songs are co-written by 90s dudes. Dan from Semisonic wrote her biggest hit, and Ryan Tedder and all those guys. Like, she knows how to pick her songwriters well. So if you look at the credits of her songs, she has a lot of incredible co-writers, and those songs, like the songs themselves, are like just instant classics, right?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I think you could say the same thing about Taylor Swift, because she writes a lot of hers, but it's with Jack Antonoff, who used to be in Fun and is now in Bleachers, who's an amazing artist himself.
Yeah,
but,
Bleachers are cool too. I like Bleachers.
Yeah, they're not my favorite, just because they're very Bruce Springsteen-y for me. But but I recognize the songwriting and the production talent. But like, one thing I found out about him recently is I watched that movie, The Substance. Have you seen The Substance yet? Demi Moore got nominated for Best Actress, like that horror movie. It's like super graphic, like body horror. It's awesome. It's like movie of the year. It's crazy. But the other person is like this naked, gorgeous, like her alter ego is like this actress. She's like stark naked and like this crazy horror film. Like, who is that? I look her up. She's married to Jack Antonoff. Coming for you, Jack.
We mentioned us being in the St. Louis area. And Paul, I want to ask you, 105.7 The Point, was, I think, pretty important to you guys in your career, as much as they were spinning you back in the day. Yeah. And as far as like in the Midwest goes, because it's one of the most popular radio stations in the Midwest. And I know you have a good connection with them. You did a bunch of radio radio station festivals and those kinds of things. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. When I think St. Louis, I think Mississippi Nights,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was it for us, man. And the other radio stuff too. And being on the river there, we had a lot of fun in St. Louis. Let me just put it that way. But Mississippi Nights was the place that we, that was
it a festival?
Such a memorable place.
Is it a festival or a venue?
It's a venue. Yeah, there was a club there. In
Mississippi Nights in St. Louis.
In St. Louis, yes. You guys know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's no longer there, unfortunately. But yeah, it was right on the river, and then you go across the river to Illinois.
Yeah,
and it's just debauchery and clubs, and everything seems legal over there. So a lot of bands would do that. And Mississippi Nights is pretty well known, especially during that time.
Allegedly, by the way.
Right, yeah.
Allegedly.
Admit to nothing.
This is the Midwest Mixtape Podcast. Joined here with Paul and Zach of Smash Mouth. You're going to be catching them at the Pig and Whiskey Festival in St. Louis, May 9th with Blind Melon. We are going to be there, and we're excited about that. All the information is at smashmouth.com. Mercury Comet tour and album this summer. And really enjoyed this conversation, guys, and look forward to connecting with you when you get into town.
All right, you too, Ben. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. Look forward to seeing you guys pretty soon. So let's rock.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, guys.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Peace.